What's up y'all? Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hello and welcome. In today's video, we are going to be creating 4 looks with 4 palettes. Each and every one of these are spooky themed, but none of them are new releases. Every single one of them, with the exception of one, because I'm not sure exactly when it came out, did come out last year, and for whatever reason, I didn't pick them up on launch, but I finally got my hands on them, and I thought it would be fun to sit down, create a look with each one of them, and compile them into one video. Now, before we jump into the looks, I am going to give you all the details, close-ups, and swatches on each of these palettes so you can see what we're working with. I will leave timestamps down below as well, so if there's just one palette in particular you want to watch, you can kind of skip around. I will have all of these palettes listed and linked down below in the description box, as well as everything that I used to complete these looks today. So per usual, if you're ever curious about anything I use in any of my videos here on my channel, always check the description box. I squeeze as much information as I possibly can into that tiny little space. But let's go ahead and go over the palettes that we're going to be playing with today. So the first one that we have is the Haunted palette. This one is from Gourmande Girls in collaboration with Doodles by the Bunny. This one came out last year and this is so beautiful. It's a 14 pan palette. It does retail for $54.99, but currently this is deeply discounted on the Gourmande Girls website. So if you've had your eye on it and you haven't picked it up, now is the time if you want to get your hands on it. I think it's like 20 bucks plus shipping, and you can't beat that because it's a $55 palette. But I think the color story in here is beautiful. I really enjoy the Gourmande Girls matte formula, and their shimmers are always beautiful as well. I love the purples with the grungy greens, the pops of orange. We have a black. I'm really excited about this one. The next one that we have comes to us from a new to me brand. This one is from Wicked Sisters. This is the Invocation of the Spirit palette. It opens like a book, but I'm gonna hold it the other way just because it's a little bit easier. Now this one is another 15 pan palette. It does retail for $32, and I think this one is currently sold out on their website. I'm not sure if it's going to come back in stock or not, but if you have it, maybe this can be inspiration. But I thought the color story in here was very unique, very pretty. We don't have any like multi-chromes or duochromes. We do have some really pretty metallic shades. We have one pressed glitter right here, which I'm not a fan of and won't be playing with, but other than that, I think it's a really pretty color story, and I'm excited to try out their formula and get to know this brand a little bit better. The next palette we have comes to us from Colourpop in collaboration with the Haunted Mansion. This is the Welcome Foolish Mortals palette. This one came out last year, sold out immediately. They never restocked it. I was so sad, but I finally have my hands on it, and I think this one is really pretty. It's very neutral leaning with some pop of color in it. I do realize that, but I think it's very on theme. I like what they did with the color story, and I really enjoy the Colourpop formula when it comes to their collab palettes. The last one that we have is actually the last look that we're going to create. I haven't played with this one yet, but it is the Glamlite Friday the 13th Camp Crystal Lake palette. This is another one that came out last year, and I didn't grab it because I've said it before, I'm not a fan of Friday the 13th, but I've heard so many good things about this palette that I couldn't resist. This is a 15 pan palette as well. It does retail for $34, and there's not a whole lot of lightness in this palette, which is why I didn't pick it up, but we're gonna work with it. We're gonna see what we can do, and we're gonna create a look with this one. But let's go ahead and pop into the first 3 looks with these palettes, and then we will create our last look with the Camp Crystal Lake palette. Alright y'all, so we're going to go ahead and kick things off with the Haunted palette. I have already gone ahead and primed my eyes with my MAC paint pot in the shade Painterly, and I think for this I want to play with these oranges and maybe some of the purples as well. I have a look in my head and we'll see how it goes, but I'm going to go ahead and start with this shade right here, this lighter orange matte shade, which is called Obsessed, and I am going to pick that shade up with a BK Beauty 211 brush, and I'm going to start by putting this on my inner corner. I don't know if I want to leave my inner corner matte for this look. We'll see how it goes whenever I get there, but for now I'm going to start with this shade right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of tap and blend it into my inner corner, bringing it up onto my crease a little bit and down onto my lower lash line just slightly. Next, we're going to go into this deeper orange shade right here. This one is called So Haunted. So I'm going to pick that one up with my BK Beauty 207 brush, and I'm going to put this in my crease. So I'm going to start by pressing the shade right in here, building up the depth and the pigmentation that I want. And once I have that the way that I like it, I can go back and start to fluff out the edges, make sure everything is blended. I'm going to bring it over to the outer corner, but I don't want to bring it like down too far into the outer corner, and I don't want to bring it too far towards the inner corner either, because I do want to go back with that first shade and kind of blend it into this one. But this is what we're going for so far. That is so pretty, so vibrant. I'm loving these shades so far. All right, so I'm going back with that first shade, Obsessed, and I'm just wiggling it right here where that last shade called So Haunted stops, just so we can kind of blend everything together and we don't have any harsh lines, we don't have any gaps or spaces in the look. So next I want to go into this deep maroon shade right here. This one is called Supernatural. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that one up with my Singe Beauty EOS 6 brush, and I'm going to start to put this in my outer corner. And then once I have this shade down, we're going to deepen it up a little bit more. So I'm just going to start pressing that shade right here in the outer corner. I don't want to start to blend or swipe because I don't want this to mud up with that orange shade. So I really just kind of want to build up the pigmentation, build up the shape, and build up the depth that I want out here. All right, so now that I have that shade down, I'm very lightly going to go along the edge of it and just kind of blend it into that orange shade. I'm not going in with any extra product or anything like that. I'm just taking kind of a cleaner side of the brush. You can kind of wipe it off if you need to. And I'm just kind of dispersing that shade and kind of blending it into that orange the best I can, just so I don't have a harsh line. So now I'm going back with that mid-tone orange shade that I used called Haunted in my crease. Same brush that I used to apply it. I picked up just the tiniest little amount of product, and I'm just very lightly going along that edge, kind of blending everything a little further, reiterating that shade just a little bit and making sure that we have a nice blend. So now we can go ahead and deepen up the outer corner with this black shade right here called Troubled. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that up with my Morphe M506 brush, and as I usually do, I'm just very lightly going to kind of tap it right here in the outer corner, just in that tiny little space. I'm going to bring it down to the outer portion of my lower lash line as well. I'm going to wipe off my brush and then just kind of blend it in to that last shade that I put down. I don't want this to take over and get carried away. I just want that little bit of depth right there on the outer corner. For the rest of my lower lash line, I'm going to go into this murky green shade right here. This one is called Horrify. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that one up with my Singe Beauty EO3 brush, and I'm just going to start to kind of fluff it along my lower lash line. I'm not going to tight line. I just really want to blow this shade out down here and kind of connect it over here in the inner corner. Alright, so my lid is primed with my NYX Glitter Primer, and I want to go in with this really pretty lime green shimmer for all over the lid. This one is called Unearthly, so I'm going to go ahead and pick that up with my BK Beauty 203 brush. I am going to spray it, and we're going to put this all over the lid. I think I might leave the inner corner matte. I'm kind of liking the way that it's looking, but we'll see how everything blends once we get this on. I'm going to start by tapping that shade all over my lid, and then once I have it down, I can go back and start to blend it out with my brush and make sure that we just don't have any harsh lines. It's nice and seamless, nice and blended into everything else. That is really pretty. Alright y'all, so this is the completed look with the Haunted palette, and I think it turned out absolutely beautiful. I love the combination of the matte shades that I chose paired with that lime green shimmer all over the lid, which is absolutely stunning by the way. And performance wise, I didn't experience any issues except for a tiny bit of fallout with that black shade, but it was only with the first eye. Once I went in a little lighter handed on the second look, I didn't experience that issue at all. But let me show you what I used to finish off this look so we can turn on the lights, we can see the shimmer, the shift, the sparkle, and then we can move on to our next palette. So in my lower waterline, I went in with a Give liner in the shade Greener Pastures. I lined my lid with my Zeesea liquid liner and then finished everything off with my Huda Beauty One Coat Wow mascara. Alright, so let's go ahead and create our look with the Invocation of the Spirit palette from Wicked Sisters. Now, this color story kind of throws me off a little bit. It is a 15 pan palette, but there's only 6 mattes in here. Everything else is like metallics and satin shades, and then you have one pressed glitter. So our matte shades are going to be these 3 right here, these 2, and then this black shade right here. So it kind of limits us as to what we can do. So I think what I'm going to go ahead ahead and do is start with a combination of these two shades right here, kind of mix them together and see if I can lighten up this brown a little bit to give me more of like a lighter crease transition shade. So those shades are called Occult and Levitate. So I'm going to go ahead and pick those up with a BK Beauty 201 brush, and all I'm going to do is just kind of go back and forth between the two shades just like that, and then I'm going to start to kind of apply this right here into my crease and just sort of build up that shade. That is very pigmented. It's going on really nicely. I'm not getting any patching, skipping, fallout, or anything. So far, performance wise, these mattes are doing fantastic. Alright, so I'm going back in with just a little bit more of that lighter shade, which is called Levitate. Same brush that I used to apply the mixture of the two shades. And I'm going right along the edges and kind of buffing it out and lightening it up just so I have a softer transition. You can see how it just kind of softened everything up over here. Now, I picked this palette up because I had been following Wicked Sisters for a little while on Instagram. They followed me back and I was curious. I hadn't seen anybody talk about them, and they had some really cute palettes, some really cute color stories, and they recently did a really big site-wide sale, so I decided it was going to be the best time to try out some things from the brand. So I went on there, and honestly, the palettes that I was interested in, they were sold out of, but I thought this was a cute color story, and for the discount that they were giving, I was like, it can't hurt to try it out. So we're gonna see how this performs. Now, I don't like to bad talk a brand because that's somebody's hard work, it's their passion, they put everything into it, but I will be honest as far as performance and swatching and fallout, creasing, and all of that goes, but I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that a brand is horrible, that, you know, anything like that. So that's not what I do, but let's go ahead and carry on. So moving on, I think what I want to do is I want to build up my outer corner with this shade right here, this really pretty kind of wine shade. That one is called Nancy. Now, when I first got this palette, I kind of opened it up and kind of dug my fingers into it a little bit to kind of see what the formula was like. Okay, I'm gonna pick that shade up with a Singe Beauty EO3, but I wanted to see what the formula felt like and all of that. Some of the shades were a little drier, this one included. Some were very creamy. All of the shimmers and metallics in here felt nice and soft, very creamy. They weren't anything flippy. We don't have like duochromes or multichromes or anything like that in here. But as far as swatching out goes, I didn't really have any issues. So we'll see how all these perform on the eye. Now, this is more buildable in pigmentation is what I'm finding. It's still very pretty. I'm not getting any patching, skipping, or fallout. I'm just having to kind of dip my brush back in a little bit more to build up that shade, but it's 100% building up, so I can't complain about that either. So next I'm going to go into this black shade right here. This one is called Witch Boots, and I'm going to pick that one up with a Morphe M506 brush, and we're going to see if we can build up some depth in this outer corner. So I'm going in very light-handed because I don't know how pigmented this black is. That's a good pigmented black. I've had more pigmented, but I've also had some that do absolutely nothing. So this is a nice black shade. I'm just going right here in this very outer corner and just lightly kind of blending it into that shade. I don't want to overdo it. I'm sorry, I'm like out of frame over here. I don't know what happened. But I'm just going to kind of blend and zhuzh that shade around. And then I'm going to bring it down onto my outer corner of my lower lash line as well. I'm not getting any fallout from anything so far. There is a little bit of kick up in the pan, but that doesn't bother me because it's not translating to the lid. But so far I'm not really having any issues performance wise. Some of them are more lightly in pigmentation, so I have to work a little harder to build up, but like I said, no patching, no skipping, everything is blending out really nicely and building up beautifully. For the rest of my lower lash line, we're going to go into this purple shade right here. This one is called Goblet. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that one up with a Singe Beauty EO4 brush. And I'm just going to kind of softly fluff this along the rest of my lower lash line. I'm not tight lining. I'm not like really blowing it out and bringing it far down. I just want to smoke this along my lower lash line, bring it over to the outer corner, and just kind of connect everything. Okay, so my eye is primed with my NYX Glitter Primer per usual, and we're gonna put one of these metallics all over the shade, maybe a couple of them. We're not even gonna mess with this pressed glitter right here though. I am not a fan of them. In fact, this shade came broken. I could have cared less, but I pressed it back in because I wanted y'all to get a full picture of the color story and what the palette looks like as a whole. But when I was pressing it back in, it is very textured, very gritty. It is like 100% a pressed glitter. So we're just gonna ignore that and we're just gonna focus on the rest of the shimmers in this palette. And I'm kind of thinking maybe a combination of these two shades right here. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and start with the orange one. That one is called Witches. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pick this up with my finger like I normally do. This does feel a little dry. In fact, this feels more like a matte with like shimmer particles in it. And I think that's actually what it is. It looks like a full-on shimmer in the palette, but when I swatch it out, that's a matte shade. Okay, so we have more mattes in here than I thought we did. Okay, see, this is what happens when you don't swatch out a full palette before you start playing with it. But I guess that means that we're gonna go into this shade right here. I did swatch that one out and it's very creamy, so I know that one is a metallic. That one is called Catholic School. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick that one up on my finger, and we're gonna start by pressing this all over the lid, and I'm gonna bring it over to the inner corner. I don't know if I wanna bring this in the inner corner though, but the only other light shimmer shade that we have is this really pretty icy blue shade. It's absolutely beautiful, but I don't think it's gonna go with this look. So we're gonna go ahead and start here for now, and we'll make a decision in a minute. All right, so I think I want to go in with a little bit of this shade right here, which is called Love Spell. And I want to put this one right here on the outer corner where the matte and the shimmer meet. So I just kind of picked it up on my finger and I'm just going to lightly tap it right here and then go back in with a clean finger and kind of blend everything together. So we just had that softer blend right out here. For the inner corner, we can either go in with this matte cream shade over here, which I use to mix into this one for my crease, or we can go into this really pretty icy blue shade up here. And I think I'm gonna go in with this shade. I know it's cool toned and everything else is warm toned, but it could be a nice little pop in the inner corner, and it's just makeup, it washes off, so not a big deal. But that shade is called Dream Guy, and let me show you a swatch of it on the back of my hand because it's this really pretty satin shade. It doesn't have like a huge flip or reflect to it, but it just has like this really pretty satin finish to it. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick that shade up with a BK Beauty 207 brush, and we're just gonna kind of pop this right here on my inner corner. I'm not gonna spray it since it's a satin and it's not gonna like intensify it, or it's not gonna have fallout or anything like that. So I'm just gonna pop that right in here. You know what, that looks really pretty. I like that. Okay. All right, y'all, so this is the completed look with this palette, and I think it turned out really pretty. I like the matte formula in here. I didn't experience any issues as far as patching, skipping, or fallout goes. They're definitely more buildable in pigmentation, but you can build them up to what you see in the palette. They blend out beautifully. They build up on one another really nicely, and that black was really pigmented. It looks beautiful on the outer corner. Now the matte or the shimmers in here, they're okay. They're not really anything to write home about. They're just kind of your run-of-the-mill metallic shimmer shades, so they're not going to be flippy, reflective, sparkly, or anything like that, but they did go on really smoothly. They're not emphasizing texture. They didn't feel dry or anything like that. So far I'm enjoying the palette. I do need to keep testing it out so I can use everything in the palette with the exception of the pressed glitter. I am not going to do that to myself, but I will keep y'all posted in a future palette ranking video. But let's go over what I used to finish off this look so we can turn the lights down and kind of see if there's any sparkle to these metallics on the lid. So in my lower waterline and to line my lid, I went in with one of the NYX Beetlejuice Pinstripe Duo Liners. This is in the shade Pink Chrome, and then I finished everything off with my Huda Beauty One Coat Wow Mascara. All right, let's create our look with the Welcome Foolish Mortals palette. I think this color story is beautiful. It is very neutral as far as the mattes go, and you have some pops of color with the shimmers in here. So kind of what I think I want to do is a very neutral crease, obviously, and then I'm kind of toying with the idea of like this shade on the lid. I like this one as well though. I think it's very, very pretty. Of course, we've got the purple, but I'm kind of thinking maybe this teal shade. That's the one that really kind of catches my eye when I open up the palette. So we're gonna go ahead and start with the crease, and we'll kind of see where this look takes us. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with this shade right here, this really pretty kind of dusty purple shade. This one is called Portrait Chamber. I'm gonna go ahead and pick that up with a BK Beauty 201 brush, and we're gonna start to kind of fluff this into the crease. I apologize about the yard people out front. I didn't realize that they were gonna show up. They don't usually come this early in the morning, and I don't have time to film this later. I have a lot going on today, so we're just gonna kind of roll with it. Hopefully they'll be done pretty soon, but I think this is a beautiful palette. I wanted this palette so bad when it first came out, and it sold out immediately, and I thought, oh, they're gonna restock it, they'll bring it back, the demand is there, and surprisingly they never did. I was shocked. I was stalking the Colourpop website, their Instagram, my emails, all of it, and I was really disappointed, and I thought, oh well, I guess I'm never gonna get it. And every time I saw it in somebody's collections or whatever, I was really sad that I didn't have the palette. So when they announced the restock, I set an alarm on my phone. I was on that Colourpop website so fast. I was excited, and this is all I wanted. I just wanted the eyeshadow palette, and now I have it, and I'm excited to play with it. Alright, so next we're going to go into like this deeper blush shade over here. This one is called the Attic. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that up with a Singe Beauty EO6 brush, and I'm going to start to build up my outer corner with this shade. I don't know how deep we're going to take this look, like how much depth we're actually going to get. There is a really dark brown shade in here, but we'll see how it comes off on the lid. But so far, this is the good Colourpop formula. I'm not having any issues as far as patching, skipping, grabbing goes. No fallout. There is quite a bit of kick up in the pan, but that doesn't bother me at all because it's not translating to the lid. But I'm just kind of building this shade up out here, and once I have it built up, we're going to kind of fluff it out. We're just gonna make sure that it's nice and soft, no harsh lines. Now that is just slightly deeper than what I have going on my lid. In person it looks deeper than it does on camera. I don't know what's going on with that, but it is deeper out here than it looks like it is on camera. I'm going to bring that shade down onto my lower lash line as well, and I'm actually going to take it all the way across. I just want that little bit of extra depth down here. Normally I would kind of stop where it is on the lid, but I want to take this all the way across today. Alright, so next we're going to deepen up this outer corner with this dark brown shade down here. This one is called New Orleans. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that up with a Singe Beauty EO5 brush, and we're just going to build up a little bit of depth right here in this outer corner. I don't want to take it super far over. I just want it to be right out here per usual. If you've watched my videos, if you watched the previous looks, you know I like this little bit of depth out here, and I am going to take it down onto the outer portion of my lower lash line as well. Alright y'all, it's time to go into this really pretty teal shimmer shade for all over the lid. That shade is called Hitchhikers. I have already primed my eye with my NYX Glitter Primer per usual, so I'm just going to go ahead and pick this one up on my finger. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. And I'm going to pack this all over my lid. Actually, I think I'm going to kind of bring it over and stop it right about there. So we're going to go in with something else on the rest of my lid, and I don't know if that something else is going to go in the inner corner as well or not, but for now we're going to start right here, and I'm going to kind of blend it the best I can over into this matte out here in the outer corner. We're definitely going to have to go in with something else to kind of blend it together better, but for now that's where we're going to stop. Alright, so we have us a very trust the process kind of look going on, but next we're going to go into this really pretty purple shimmer shade right here, which is called Have a Stretch, and we're going to pick that up with my BK Beauty 203 brush that I've been using for shimmers. I am going to spray this with some MAC Fix Plus, and we're going to put this in that outer corner, kind of where that matte and that shimmer meet, to kind of blend everything together a little bit better. So I'm going to start by pressing it right along that line, and then we're just going to kind of take that brush and just kind of go back and forth and just kind of smooth it into that other shade. You see how that has such a better blend than what we had going on? That is what I'm going for. All right, so for the rest of the lid in that inner corner, we're gonna go into this shade right here. This is like a really pretty iridescent topper shade. It's called Ghost Host. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick that up with a Singe Beauty EO1 brush. I am gonna spray it and we're gonna put this on the rest of the lid. So just have that shade picked up right there. This one is a little chunky. It's a little bit more on like the sticky side. I do believe it's a pressed glitter, but I don't mind Colourpop pressed glitters. I think they're actually a pretty nice formula. They're not super dry and gritty and gross. But I'm just gonna take this shade and kind of blend it up onto the lid. And when I get to that teal shade, I'm gonna make sure that we just blend really, really well so we don't have any harsh lines. Alright y'all, so this is our completed look and I think this turned out absolutely beautiful. I'm loving the combination of the purple and the teal, and that iridescent shimmer on the inner corner looks beautiful. It has just the tiniest bit of like a blue purple flip to it, but performance wise I didn't have any issues with this palette other than the tiniest bit of fallout in my outer corner with that dark brown shade. For the most part it did fluff away. I had the tiniest little cast under there, but I can go back and fix that later. It didn't smudge around and make a bigger mess when I went to fluff it away, but I do think this is the good Colourpop formula. They have several different formulas. Their palettes are not always created equal, but for the most part their collabs have their best formula, and this one is no exception to that. I thought the mattes were really nice. They built up nicely. They fluffed out really nicely. I didn't have any issues with patching or skipping. But let's go over what I used to finish off this look so we can turn the lights down and we can see that glimmer and that shine on the lid. So in my lower waterline I went in with an Odin's Eye Solmane gel liner. This is in the purple shade. I believe it's called Lavender or something. It's 008. It'll be down in the description box. I lined my lid with my Zeesea liquid liner, and for mascara I went in with my City Beauty Beyond mascara. Alright, so before we jump into our look with the Camp Crystal Lake palette, I want to swatch and try on the highlighter that came with this collection. I didn't pick this one up on launch either, so I thought we could go ahead and try it on when I create a look with this palette. So this is what the packaging looks like. It is very bulky, I will say. It has the lenticular motion, but the color in here I think is beautiful. It's kind of this icy blue flip. At least that's what I saw from the swatch and what I see in the pan. This pan is huge, by the way. Let me just say, I'm curious to know how deep it is though. But let's go ahead and do a swatch on my hand and then we will try it on the face. So this is what the highlighter looks like, and yeah, you can definitely see it's got like that icy blue flip to it. I think it's very pretty, very unique. I don't have a lot of colorful highlighters in my collection. I usually go for more of a champagne or a pink, so I'm always excited when I see something that's a little unique. But I'm gonna go ahead and pick this up with an ABH highlighter brush. This is the A23, and we're just gonna start by kind of sweeping this on my cheek and trying it on. Oh, that is really pretty. It has just like a little bit of a blue glow to it. It's not glittery, it's not chunky, it's not emphasizing texture. It's laying really nicely, very smooth, really similar to the formula that we saw in the Halloween 2 highlighter, which I absolutely love. Alright, so now we can jump into our look with the Camp Crystal Lake palette. So I think what I want to do for this look is I want to play with this little end of the palette over here. The murky greens and this mauve shade down here are really calling to me. Like I said, there's not a lot of lightness in this palette, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this shade right here. I'm going to pick it up on a big fluffy brush and see if I can go in very light-handed and get just a little bit of a wash of color with it. This one is called Unlucky Day, so I'm going to go ahead and pick this one up with a BK Beauty 212 brush, and like I said, we're gonna see if we can get a light wash of this in my crease. Now, as I'm sure you have noticed, Miss Katie has a cone on her head. My poor baby got into what we're assuming is a scuffle with another dog. We weren't out there, so we don't know for sure. We're just assuming based off of the facts that are presented with us. But let me say, she will be okay. It's not as bad as it looks. It could have been a whole lot worse, but she still has to wear the cone for about a week. So what happened was last night, which was actually Saturday night by the time y'all are seeing this, Katie went outside. It was a little after 6 o'clock and I was making dinner. She had already eaten dinner. She went outside. And we left the door open because my little dog went out there with her. He is a little like 8-pound miniature dachshund, and we have a lot of hawks and eagles around here, so we can't leave him outside unattended. So he went out there with her, which he likes to go and just kind of chill outside. So I think it was my oldest son that was watching over her. I'm not sure, or watching over him. I'm not sure which one. My kids are 17 and 16, so it's not like I had little bitty kids watching them, but they were outside, and then all of a sudden we heard like the aggressive barking and the scuffle going on, and it was on one of my neighbor's side. I'm trying to think as far as everything lays out, but so my neighbor to one side doesn't have any dogs. The other neighbor does, but they have like a little bitty dog. We've never had an issue. That one just kind of minds its own business. But every now and then they have somebody visit their house, and they bring their dog with them. And that one likes to cause trouble. It likes to troll the fence. It likes to bark. It likes to be aggressive when other dogs come out and just kind of bark at them through the fence. So I told my son, I said, go get Katie in, bring her inside. So he went out there and he got her, and he came inside and he was like, Mom, Katie's bleeding. And I was like, she'll be fine. She probably just scraped her nose on the fence. Like, it'll be okay. And he goes, no, she's bleeding. It's really bad. And I turned around because I was making dinner, and she just had blood coming down her face. It was on her chest, her legs, her little paws. It was puddling on the floor. Like, she was bleeding really bad. So I immediately went into like freak out mode, and I was like, okay, see if you can get the bleeding to stop. I need to finish dinner so it doesn't burn. And so he's like holding compress on her nose, trying to get it to stop bleeding. He did get it to stop bleeding for a minute. Let's move on to our next shade real quick. So I think what I want to do next is go in with this murky green shade right here. This one is called Camp Counselor. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that shade up with, where's the brush that I want? We're going to go in with a BK Beauty 202 brush, and we're going to start to build up this outer corner. I do like the wash of color that I got with that first shade. It's a little darker than what I generally prefer in the crease, but working with what I got, I'll take it. Okay, so like I said, we thought he got the bleeding to stop, but like every time she would lick her nose or put her nose down to get water or just kind of bump it, it would start bleeding again. So I decided I was going to take her to the emergency room. So I called down there first, told them what happened, because I wanted to make sure that they could do something since it was her nose. I didn't want to take her down there and then be like, oh, there's nothing we can do, just go home, because it's about a 20-25 minute drive. It was late at night. In fact, it was my oldest son's homecoming. He's a senior this year, so I didn't get to see him leave for homecoming. I did get to see him when he got home. I did get a picture and all of that, but anyways, so I finished dinner, scarfed some food down really quick, got her in the car, took her down there. They triaged her, took her in the back, kind of calmed her down, cleaned her up, and the vet came in and spoke to me and told me it definitely looks like another dog got a hold of her nose, because it looks like the tooth went in and then she yanked back and it kind of tore her nose. I will pop up a picture. It's not gory, it's not gross, it's after we got it cleaned up, so there's not a lot of blood or anything everywhere. You can just kind of see what she's working with, but if you're really squeamish, I would look away for just a couple of seconds. So anyways, they were like, there's not really a whole lot we can do because it's the very tip of her nose, and since there's not a whole lot of skin to work with, all we can do is just kind of let it be and let it heal on its own. So I guess realistically it could have used a staple or some stitches, but it just wouldn't have held. So they decided to go ahead and put a little bit of surgical glue on the tip of her nose. They said it might hold, it might not, because typically you need to keep that area dry, and since it's her nose, she drinks water, she's gonna lick it, you can't really control that. So they did that, and it kind of stopped the bleeding a little bit, but basically it's just going to heal on its own. She said she'll definitely have a scar. It probably won't completely come together at the end, but it's not going to hurt anything. It's more like a cosmetic thing. So they sent her home with an antibiotic and a pain medication, and she has to wear the e-collar for about a week until it kind of heals really good and can't bust back open, because every time she jumps and like hits her nose, it would open up, and you know, they just didn't want that. They didn't want her scratching it or anything like that. So it's not as bad as it looks, but she still has a pretty good gash on her nose. And like I said, we're just assuming that it was the dog next door, because when we went out and we looked, there was no blood on the fence or anything, but there's a little spot under the fence where it looks like maybe they had kind of dug under the fence a little bit. And what we're assuming is she stuck her nose under there to say hello, because Katie's a very friendly dog. She's never been aggressive. Like, she's always been around other dogs. She goes to daycare, dog parks, things like that, and there's never been an issue. So we're thinking that she put her nose under there to say hello, and the other dog just kind of bit down. And that was that. So that was my Saturday night. Very eventful. Luckily, we were only there for a couple of hours. It didn't take too long, but still something I had not anticipated on doing. I like this combo. I think it looks really pretty. Sorry if I didn't explain what I was doing. I got a little caught up in my story, but I just brought that shade down to the outer portion of my lower lash line, and I'm just making sure that that green and that mauvey shade are nice and blended, and then we're going to move on and deepen up this outer corner a little bit more. All right, to deepen up this outer corner, we're gonna go in with this really dark brown shade over here. This one is called Death Curse. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick that up with a Sigma E53 brush, and I'm just gonna kind of bring it right into the very outer corner of this look, just like I do for the rest of my looks, giving me that little bit of depth. And then I'm gonna bring it down at the outer edge of my lower lash line as well. Just kind of deepening everything up ever so slightly. All right, so with my same BK Beauty 212 brush that I used for that mauvey shade called Unlucky Day, I'm just gonna pick up more of it, and I'm going to put it on the rest of my lower lash line, just kind of blending it and dispersing it, bringing it over to the inner corner. And I'm also gonna go right along the edge out here, just kind of smoking this out and softening it a little bit more. This is definitely going to be dark. There's not really a whole lot I can do about it, but I just wanna kind of soften everything and bring in a little bit more of that shade. So that's all I'm doing. But let me know how y'all's weekend was. I hope it wasn't as medically and drama driven as mine was. I hope y'all had a really good weekend, and in the end my son had a really good time at homecoming. So silver lining there. Just kind of sad that I didn't get to see him off. I didn't get to take all the pictures, do the whole mom thing, but he did look very handsome, and he said that he had a fantastic time. So that's good, because it was his first homecoming dance ever. He's just not that kid that does all that. He could have cared less, but I told both of my boys that you need to do all the things as a senior. Like, you need to enjoy it, you need to participate, create those memories, and do all of that. And he was really glad that he went. He said he had a lot of fun. All right, so for all over the lid, I want to go into this really pretty, almost rose mauvey shimmer shade right here. This one is called Can't Hide. So let's do a little swatch really quick, see what this shade looks like. Oh, that is really pretty. Very reflective, very sparkly. I'm going to go ahead and pick that shade up with my BK Beauty 203 brush. I have already primed my eye with my NYX Glitter Primer per usual. And I'm going to go ahead and spray this with some MAC Fix Plus. And we're going to start by pressing this all over the lid. I may need to go back with a darker shimmer to kind of blend everything together, but we're gonna start with this one. So I'm gonna bring it over to the inner corner, but I'm not gonna bring it into the inner corner. I'm just packing that shade on here, and once I have it down, I can go back and start to kind of blend it and soften the edges. Next, I want to go into this deeper kind of grungy green shimmer shade right here. This one is called Axe, and I'm just going to use that to blend that shimmer and that matte together a little bit more. I think they look pretty good, but I like more of a blend. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that shade up with that same BK Beauty 203 brush that I just used. I wiped it off really good. We're going to spray it with some MAC Fix Plus, and I'm just going to kind of press this right along that line right there where those shades are coming together. And then I'm just going to take my brush and just kind of zhuzh it back and forth to make sure we have a good blend. For the inner corner, we're going to go into this silver shade up here. This one is called Jason Lives. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that one up with a Singe Beauty EO1 brush. I'm going to spray it again per usual, and I'm going to pop this one into the inner corner, and we're going to finish up this look. Ooh, that's pretty. Very reflective, very shimmery. Love it. Alright y'all, so this is the completed look with this palette, and I think it turned out really pretty. I'm impressed with how light I was able to take the shades in this palette. I was afraid, like I said, that I wasn't going to get a lot of lightness, a good transition for my fair skin tone, but that mauvey shade really blended out beautifully and did give me a little bit of softness. Obviously, I would have preferred a little bit more, but I can't complain based on how deep this palette is, and I really love the combination of a green and purple look together. But based off of the shades that I use, which is nowhere near the entire palette, it's not even half of it at this point, I do think that this is the good Glamlite quality. As far as the mattes go, I didn't have any issues. They were pigmented, they built up nicely, they blended out beautifully. I didn't have any issues with patching, skipping, or fallout, and the shimmers in here I thought were beautiful as well. I will say that that more rose tone and that green tone shimmer were a little bit more on the dry side, but they weren't super texture or gritty. They don't feel heavy on my lid. They didn't emphasize texture, but the silver one was definitely more on the creamy side, which is what I kind of know and love from the brand. But overall, I think it's a really good palette. I'm glad that I have my hands on it, and I definitely understand the hype behind it. I also really like the highlighter as well. It is very clunky packaging, which isn't my favorite, but it's a very pretty highlighter. I like that little blue flip that it has to it. It almost has like this little bit of a hint of a glow to it. It's not super in your face. You don't look at somebody and go, oh, she's got a blue highlighter on. It's almost like when you turn your face, it's like, ooh, that's a really cool glow, and I think it's beautiful. I like how smooth it is, and I really appreciate that it's not glittery and textured. But let's go over what I used to finish off this look so we can turn down the lights, we can see the shimmer and the sparkle, and then close out this video. So in my lower waterline, I went in with a Victoria Beckham Satin Kajal liner in the shade Fig. I lined my lid once again with my Zeesea liquid liner and finished everything off with my City Beauty Beyond mascara. Alright y'all, so that is going to complete this video. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I actually had a really good time playing with all these palettes, and I have to admit, I wasn't disappointed by any of them. I thought all of them had really nice quality. I like the looks that I created. I like the color stories. I'm happy to have these in my collection, but let me know all of your thoughts down below. Let me know if you like this style of video, if you have any of these palettes, which one was your favorite. I want to know it all. Let's have that conversation. Light up that comment section, and as usual, I want to thank you all so much for watching my video and spending your time with me. It truly does mean so much to me. And if you like this video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up before you leave. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click on that notification bell so that you can be notified of all my future posts here on my channel. I do post quite a few videos every single week, and I wouldn't want you to miss one. But until my next video, have a good one. Bye.